Welcome to Inside Exchange, Topics for Manufacturers, a series bringing you expert-led presentations on the issues that matter most to members. The curated topics in this series feature presentations from associate members and subject matter experts through on-demand and live webinars to help Hudson Valley manufacturers. If you have topics you'd like us to explore in future episodes, contact us at info@councilofindustry.org. Let's begin.
Welcome to Inside Exchange, Topics for Manufacturers, a series designed to bring Council of Industry members timely, practical information from subject matter experts on issues shaping manufacturing today. In this episode, Harold is joined by Michael Galdieri from SPRX to explore how artificial intelligence is shaping the R&D tax credit process, and more broadly, how manufacturers can be thinking about AI as a strategic business tool and not just a buzzword. Michael walks us through where AI is already delivering efficiencies and how it's changing compliance and documentation expectations, and how manufacturers can use existing R&D activity to help fund future innovation. This conversation is especially relevant for those looking to reduce administrative burden, improve return on tax credits, and stay ahead of evolving regulatory and technology shifts. Let's get started.
Michael Galdieri, SPRX tax credit. Welcome to the Inside Exchange. I'm really looking forward to your presentation.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Harold. Always excited to be presenting and working with the council again. And
we were talking just before we got started. I think it's been close to 10 years that we've been working together on these tax credits, and I really appreciate your expertise and all you've done for council members. So let's talk about SPRX and let's talk about AI in manufacturing.
Yeah, so I guess naturally to start, and to your point, the past 10 years have been incredible for so many different reasons. But what we found, even in the past year, is AI is here. Companies need to be thinking about it. There's going to be laws and governance coming up about how you can implement AI in general practice. But generally speaking, this is something that every manufacturer should be taking a look at. My firm, SPRX, has developed an AI solution to help with the R&D tax credit. And most of your manufacturers are probably aware of it. They're probably taking advantage of it. But what they're also unaware of is that it's largely archaic in how it's been done. Typically, it's done with people and hours and time. What we're seeing is somewhere between, call it 15 to 20 to 25 to 30 hours based on the complexity of a project. And, the biggest lift in that is the data that's being pulled in the interviews. This has been largely minimized with SPRX. And that's really our power play here. It's using AI to capture data to make reasonable assumptions. But, I wanted to make sure I leveraged in about how manufacturers should really be thinking about this. So would love to just get into it if you don't mind, Harold.
Yeah, no, just dive right in. I appreciate that. Yeah, go.
Great. So I want to pose a question to everybody listening, to everybody watching. I want to ask how you're thinking about AI. Now, there's a few different ways. You've probably bumped into ChatGPT at some point. Maybe you're working with Claude. Maybe you're looking at it for data entry if you're at an accounting firm, or maybe you're looking at it to streamline your receivables process if you're at a manufacturer. The really important question here is, how are you thinking about it? Are you thinking about it as a holistic solution? Are you thinking about it more as a Band-Aid to your actual operation? I would challenge you to say you should be looking at this as a top-down way for you to improve your overall business. And that could be from ARs to manufacturing processes and how you're driving efficiencies there. It could be through sales and how you're driving sales with data-driven decisions, not just gut checks, which, if you've been in sales before, that's a lot of where that comes from. So I wanted to pose the question, how are you thinking about AI? And I want everybody to take a step back, because there's really three questions that you need to be asking yourself. Number one is, what are you doing already? What AI are you using already? What have you implemented? It's a really important question because it gives you a baseline of where you're at in this entire process. I completely understand the concept of having AI fatigue. It's AI everywhere these days. You're seeing it with Google, you're getting it anytime you're searching through a browser. Maybe you're seeing an AI assistant pop up on Word. There's a lot of fatigue going on, but it's really the difference between the signals and the noise, realizing what needs to get done and then eliminating all the noise on the side of it. The second question is, who is driving the AI decisions at your company? So if it's just you as a business owner or a CFO, you're doing it wrong. I'll tell you that. You're doing it wrong because you need a quorum for this. Because the decisions, quote unquote, that you make may not be fully adopted, fully implemented across your company. That's going to be a major problem when in 18 months you go back and say, how come our efficiencies aren't getting better?
Mm.
What are we using this technology for? And everybody goes, well, we are not, because we weren't a part of this decision-making process and
Right.
it just got implemented on top of us. So instead of using it as a tool, we're not using it at all. And that's a bigger problem.
Right. Right.
The last question that I would pose to all of you is, how are your partners using AI? Right? So you're probably taking strides internally, modifying your systems, modifying your practices to implement AI to drive savings, reduce hours, reduce waste. But you need to be looking externally as well. So your vendors, the people that are doing your material supplying, are they implementing AI and then passing those savings along to you? Because if you're not, that's a major, major miss for a lot of companies. When we're taking a look holistically at operations, if these companies aren't passing along AI savings to you, because ultimately that's what AI is. It's a tool,
Right.
right? To reduce the overall workload on some folks. If they're not passing these savings along to you, what's really going on here? You should probably think about changing your supplier, changing your providers, and getting someone that's a little bit more progressive. There's a big overarching gorilla in the room, and it's, how are we funding these projects, Harold? And it
Yeah.
comes up more, more and more and
Well,
more.
it's not free.
It's not free. Nothing is free, but there are ways to fund these projects. And I'd like to pose just our solution to this. R&D credits, you could actually, it becomes a self-fulfilling cycle. So if you implement AI, you could actually look at the time and wages of the people that are implementing it to drive a credit. So it's sort of a self-funding exercise when you look at it like this. Now, you're probably taking your R&D tax credits and you're reinvesting them back in the business. You're buying new machines, you're paying bonuses, you're paying salaries, but consider the fact that you could redirect some of those funds where you're not going to have to rob Peter to pay Paul. You could actually just redirect some of those funds to fund these AI projects, and you're not magically going to have to come up with a budget. You could just carve out a portion to say, look, 25% of our R&D credit this year is going to go into AI driving solutions, be it through hiring a consultant or buying a piece of technology or leasing a piece of technology to then help build out our credit. So at the end of the day, it's not dollar for dollar that you're getting back, but it's pretty,
Right.
pretty close.
Right.
So AI is absolutely, it certainly is not the boogeyman, Harold, and it's certainly not a magic wand. Okay.
Right.
I think I think there's a lot of misconception about there about what AI is. It is a tool at the end of the day, and it's not a magic wand because you do need human expertise to drive it, right? There's a new job title out there called AI prompter, and AI prompters, it's exactly what it sounds like. They're asking all of the questions, all of the permutations to get to that right answer and driving the AI forward at a company. My firm, SPRX, has significantly, through AI, reduced the amount of time, increased credits, and are doing it at about 50% savings when we're talking about what the traditional process and provider would give you versus what we actually give you. Our approach is really simple. We leverage AI and then we loop in humans to get this study done. And what we're finding is that our speed, compliance, and money back is second to none in the business. Our software, our technology will get you 98.6% of the way there. That 1.4% delta is always human touch.
Hmm.
It's a tax quality control attorney. It's a project manager that has experience in your industry. It's someone that is familiar with your business and can fill in the dots and make sure that the T's are crossed, the I's are dotted before anything goes out the door to the IRS.
Right. Because the consequences there are, they're severe. If it's a mistake or if you overshoot, you definitely don't want that to happen.
Yeah, no doubt.
And
Especially with the rules and regulations that the IRS has, implemented in the past 5 years.
right.
The raised documentation standard, the fact that oral testimony is no longer sufficient, or is not, I should say, the IRS preferred methodology. They're really going back to this contemporaneous approach, and we're all for it. The reason we're all for it is because that's how we do things.
Hmm.
We do a project by project analysis. We do not do stat sampling. And at the end of the day, what you're getting is a more comprehensive deliverable. So we're not looking at a smattering of projects. We're looking at all projects, and we're building out business component analysis on all of them.
Great.
So I want to take a step back here, Harold, just for all the was it the neophytes in the room, the folks that don't that haven't bumped into the credit before.
Yeah.
I want to make sure everybody's on the same page here. When we're talking about the R&D credit, what we're looking at is the four-part test. This is by definition in the IRS tax code. We're looking for permitted purpose, so improving a new, improved, modified, site-specific, customer-driven, or application-focused product, process, formula, design, technique, software, invention. Did you get all that?
Yeah.
All right. So again, it's a
What
new,
does that mean?
improved, modified, site-specific, customer-driven, application-focused product, process, formula, design, technique, software, invention.
Got
Okay.
it.
Got it. It needs to be technological in nature. So this means based in the hard sciences. These are principles of biology, chemistry, physics, software engineering. There needs to be an element of uncertainty that can we do this? Can we build this? Can we design on this type of surface? Can we achieve what the customer is requesting? And then ultimately the process of experimentation. So everything from engineering to concept to engineering to tooling to prototyping, everything through that process of experimentation and the back and forth within to quality control, all the way through to prototype and first article. That's what this process of experimentation typically looks like at a manufacturer. Now, at a typical job shop, someone that isn't really designing their own products or putting those out, where we're really seeing the improvements are with the manufacturing process. So improving throughput, reducing waste, increasing yields, things like that. Most manufacturers, that's how they will qualify for this. There are certain aspects that we can look at in terms of the people's salaries, wages. We could look at 1099 contractors if you're bringing them in to help with this. We could also look at potentially supply costs. So these are the raw material costs that go into the development of a one-of-a-kind unit or a prototype. So think pressure vessels, think process equipment, think tool and die, think medical manufacturing. Anytime that they're creating a tool, a die for this, we can potentially capture some of those supply costs. So if you're doing this, needless to say, you're already innovating, you're already doing R&D, whether you know it or not.
Right.
There's likely areas that you're missing though. And I want to bring this up. When you do a stat sample, you take a smattering of projects across your entire business. Then you apply that top down to your entire business. The problem with statistical sampling is you're building in a statistical variance and you're ultimately missing projects, right? There's going to be some projects that you just flat out miss because you're doing a stat sample. You can't catch them all there. When you do project by project, you lose a project, not a group of projects. So for example, if we're stat sampling and we took 5 projects, if you lose one, you're losing 20% of the credit. If you lose 2, you're losing 40% of the credit. If you lose 3, there's a good chance that you're going to have to start from scratch, go back to the beginning, and your R&D process starts again. It just happens. It happens that way sometimes. It's called a resample. A lot of times what also will happen is a provider will put together something called a SALY report. SALY, same as last year. Aha. Yeah, they do this. And It shocks me at times how some folks are saying, I flat out ask, when was the last time you had your R&D credit taken a look at? And they're like, well, we haven't. And they're like, well, I'm really comfortable with the provider that we have. And I'd say that's great, but nothing ever grew from a place of comfort.
Mm,
Challenge. If they're running a salary report, it means that they're giving you effectively the same work, they're charging you about the same, and they're doing less. They're not passing along savings to you. So keep that in mind. If you're going through this, if you're doing process and product development, if you're doing tooling, equipment, materials, and you're testing and validating your results, these are the earmarks of a successful study. The place that I would tell you that all manufacturers are lacking is in the project by project analysis across the board. I would tell you that 9 times out of 10, not one of them is capturing the maximum amount of credit that they're entitled to.
and your AI software kind of mines that? Is that how it finds those projects or
Yeah,
works?
exactly. So we will take the documentation that they have. And typically, if they capture it via spreadsheet or let's say they have CNC programs, we've developed intelligent ways to interpret this information.
Gotcha.
And it's really, really straightforward for a lot of companies. They could simply download a list of projects, drag that list into our platform, and our platform will aggregate the data. Same thing with payroll, drag and drop. Same thing with if you have, let's say you do meetings with folks, right? Our software is intelligent enough for you to drag an MP3 or a video into that, and it will interpret the data and spit out a response based on the transcript to
Hmm.
say, look, this is the R&D that was discussed. If this is put into practice, it adds to the contemporaneous documentation because in effect, that's what we're building out here. But yeah, that's in a nutshell, that's what our software does. And
Okay.
we've seen this, 15 to 25 hour process driven down to just 4 to 6 hours total.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an incredible, incredible enhancement.
Right.
These are just some of the folks that we've helped. We've helped aerospace and defense, metal fabricators, industrial fabricators, plastics, chemicals, consumer, food and bev, packaging, medical, pharma and technology, and transportation and logistics. These are just some of the examples that we've helped. But at the end of the day, if you drew a straight line through every R&D study that I've ever conducted, the word design will appear, whether it's a process design, a product design, engineering design, technical drawing design. Anytime you're doing controls programming and designing a system, you're 9 times out of 10 doing research and development. So I'd have you take a step back. So what to look for in an AI tax partner? Well, me is the answer, but realistically, I want to walk you through some of the quantifiable pieces. So you want to make sure that any tax software that you're using is IRS compliant and secure. We're actually as far as I know, the only R&D tax credit providing software that is directly integrated with the IRS. That allows us to take a deeper dive into some of these credits. We only pull the information that we need. We're SOC 2 Type 2 certified, so security is top of mind with everything we do. You also want tax intelligence. So you want AI software that's trained on tax law and data, not just automation. It's not just making things easier. Okay. That is not the idea. If you've ever worked with ChatGPT or Claude, these are models that you actually have to dedicate time to train. So it's good data in, good data out. Very similar here. We've brought on people from manufacturing, from architecture, engineering, software development, and we've trained our models using their brains. So you have this beautiful hybrid of an advanced project manager that has worked on thousands and thousands of R&D studies, that has very industry specific knowledge, that is constantly getting enriched from all forms of the web, from all areas of the web. So from Wikipedia to job boards, keeping up with the newest job requirements, keeping up with the newest project data. And it's all built into this intelligent software. So the end result of that is a more complete and comprehensive process and product. You also want seamless integration. This is the part that I cannot stress enough. If you do not have seamless integration, you're gonna have a bad time, okay? If you're not in with ADP, Paychex, all the major QuickBooks, FreshBooks, Xero, and you're not integrating with Deltek, with Revit, with Jira, this is going to prove to be a bad time. We have all those integrations. We're constantly developing more as we move along. Even ones that we don't have integrations now for specifically, it takes us a very low time to actually spin up a new one, just because we've had such experience with all of these. So you want to make sure that seamless integrations are a part of it, and you want to have measurable ROI. So I'm not talking about just the hard costs, I'm talking about the soft costs. So the hard cost for anything is what this will cost. We understand that, right? We understand the net. There are soft costs built into this. Could be speed, right? How fast it's getting done. How much time suck is this going to take from our people? Because now we have to do project interviews and talk to them about what was new, improved, modified, process of experimentation, element of uncertainty, technological nature. That takes time. If you're wasting that time with that process, your people could be doing better things. I guarantee it. They're not making your company more efficient if they're working on an R&D tax credit study.
And that is something, I mean, that's a common complaint we hear, constant demand for documents, constant demand for time. And in the end, it's not worth it because they've spent so many hours in the process.
The ROI is probably the most important part. Like, we all love to see dollars, right? We all love to see that dollar amount. But if I give you a credit of X dollars, I'm going to tell you that it's actually worth more than that, because what you're not factoring in is your people's time. And that ultimately is it. And on top of that, you're going to see, here's something else that nobody factors in. If you have a project manager that was working on your project 1 year and they leave, and now all the tacit knowledge that came with them working on your project specifically is gone with that person. You have to have a new project manager. You have to basically retrain that project manager on your systems, on your projects, on who you are as a company. That delta doesn't exist with us anymore. So you're actually picking up and you're becoming more efficient year after year, because we can constantly look upon the regression of your data to say, okay, what has happened? What has been more efficient? What do the projects look like? And we're eliminating that human bias that would trigger more time suck. The last piece of this is probably the most important piece. I mentioned, AI software, our software gets it 98.6% of the way there. The last piece of this is human oversight. Over every project, we have a project manager and we have a quality control attorney. Okay. Those two folks alongside of you are the end all be all. We are validating the data, we are checking it with you, and we're making sure that it is exactly what your company does. We are not playing in the gray. Okay, this is a black and white thing. You qualify or you don't on every project. That's how it works. There's some projects that will qualify more based on time. There's some projects that will not qualify at all. We're not putting a square peg into a round hole here. Okay, so our tax control attorney or tax quality control attorneys are overseeing this. They're signing off on it before it goes out to the door, and certainly before the IRS puts its eyes on it. So, all that being said, I wanted to walk you through our process. I think that's important here. First thing you're going to do is when you log in, we're going to find your R&D activity. So you're going to either drag and drop your projects into our system. You're going to link in with Deltek into our system. All good. We've got it all. Azure, Revit, just some of the bigger ones, but we will link directly with your software. We will pull the projects, we will pull the people, we'll pull the time. And then we will connect with your data system. So we're going to figure out where this data exists, and then we're going to link our systems with it. The last piece, so we're integrating payroll processors, we're integrating QuickBooks, we're integrating functionally how you track your business with our software. The last piece of this is we're going to review the documentation with you. And then at the end, we're going to try to make it routine for you. So as opposed to having to do this year after year, there are certain places that R&D will exist. We're going to walk through a best practice with you and say, look, if you just track this like this, it's going to get a lot easier. However, it's not necessary because our system is interpreting all of the data much more efficiently and much more effectively.
Mike, just to go back with
Yeah.
that, I mean, is there obviously there's a little bit of a learning curve for people. I mean, I assume that software is fairly intuitive, but there's also feel like there must be some sort of a tutorial, some sort of a, bring people up to speed so they don't just open up this dashboard and just start.
Yeah. Yeah. So the tutorial is an onboarding call with my project team. What happens on that call is you'll be onboarded, you'll be introduced to the platform, you'll be introduced on how to connect your systems, although it's very intuitive. I would say the learning curve is getting smaller and smaller with each passing year because people are used to this type. If you've ever used a Monarch or a Monarch Money or Mint when Mint was out, it's that easy as syncing directly with those systems. So at the end of the day, the learning curve is getting smaller and smaller, but we like to design, I like to think of our software like Apple, right? My mother, when she first got an iPhone, picked it up and in about 10 minutes was completely proficient. And it was because it was just intuitively designed. We've taken that same philosophy and we've designed it into our software where a 20-year-old grad can link in or a 70-year-old manufacturer that, maybe just uses QuickBooks or something, like an Excel sheet on their computer. We've made it very, very intuitive. We're dragging and dropping. We're making it as seamless as possible for most people. So I would tell you the learning curve is minimal, but our project managers are there to hold hands in case it's needed.
Terrific. Thank
Yep.
you.
So these are just some of the credit values we found. For example, I think what's important to highlight here is the study cost and the eligible credits found. I would tell you on most of the studies that we do that come from other providers, we're seeing a 20% or greater credit enhancement. And that's just on the surface. On the surface. That's eliminating the statistical variance. It's doing the project by project approach. We're able to capture more time, more of the projects, and ultimately credits go up because we're not losing disqualified projects or disqualified contracts. The client time commitment on this, 90 minutes, and we measured, this is what's really, really important. These are best case scenarios, so keep that in mind. But we actually measured this with clients. We measured their time on the system. We were at their locations doing this. So this is a really, really powerful piece. And the cost typically is about 30 to 50% savings. Okay. And that is a big number. It's a big number. What we're trying to do is democratize these credits. We're trying to get them faster, quicker, more efficiently, and more compliant than other providers, but also pass along savings. Because the way that R&D credits have traditionally been done is archaic. I'm not even going to hold back on this one. It is archaic. It requires people. It requires a project manager, an associate project manager. It requires quality control attorneys. All of them are sitting on calls. You're running up bills in the first 30 days of a study. They're tracking time, doing emails, rewriting emails, going back and forth. It is archaic in nature. Okay. And there's a better way to do it. And the better way is SPRX and our platform. So without getting too ranty, I just want to leave you with a few takeaways here. I think in summary, I think it's best. AI is not a boogeyman, and it's certainly not a magic wand. It's a tool. The way that you use the tool, a hammer can build a house or it can break a window. It depends on how you use the tool and how effective you are with the tool and what your ultimate intent is. So AI is strategic. It's start thinking about it now because if you're not, you're going to be left behind. You're a dinosaur, and we all know where they ended up. If you claim R&D credits, you can fund your AI. So if you just carve out a 25% number of that, you can then refund your AI and refund your R&D tax credits. And for SPRX, we bridge this gap, right? There's a fundamental chasm about how R&D credits have been done traditionally and how they will be done into the future. If you're at a CPA firm, I know that you're already thinking about how you could eliminate data entry. Okay, you're thinking, how can we leverage AI to get personal returns done faster, more efficiently? Okay, we know, we've been there. I know that you're thinking about it, because if you're not, you know that a personal return is a tremendous amount of time for a very low billing. You got to eliminate that if you want to be, on the forefront. So we know you're thinking about these things, and we're helping bridge the gap between this archaic system and the new way of doing it. So, I'm open to questions here,
Yeah.
Harold. I'm not sure.
I mean, it's really an interesting way to look at it, Michael. You talk about that. I know we're talking about artificial intelligence with our members all the time.
Mhm.
And some of the tools are they're right in front of you. Some of the things are all the little mundane tasks that you can do with generative AI. But there's also this whole agentic AI movement and opportunity. The idea that you could, take some of these tax credits and invest in some tools, some AI tools that are going to improve your forecasting. They're going to reduce your lead times because you're going to have better information, better data. You're going to know patterns that your customers are asking. You're going to anticipate their needs.
Yep.
And then kind of in your loop concept, once that's implemented, that becomes a potential tax credit, going forward.
Absolutely. It's identifying, it's pattern recognition at the end of the day. It's
Mhm.
large pattern recognition. There was a cookie manufacturer that was able to identify the lulls in their cookie cycle. They said, at this time in this season, we know we sell more cookies here. It was being done by one person through a spreadsheet. They were updating it, and they're constantly falling behind. They implemented AI, and now they're flush every cookie season, when gingerbreads come out.
Yeah, sometimes you think of it as who is that most wise, knowledgeable, intelligent person in the facility, right? And all
Yeah.
of their intuition and all of their knowledge and all their experience and all their expertise, they've been crunching that data all those years. And that's why they know that in June things slow down and in August things pick up or whatever the pattern might be. But this artificial intelligence, whatever tool you're using
Yeah.
is taking that and like magnifying that person even more, particularly.
Arguably, that person should be the person training your
Right.
model.
They will
Yeah.
ask the questions. They'll know what to be looking for. They'll know what data is important and what's not. So really do appreciate this. We're really happy to have you guys as an associate member. This is a huge resource. These tax credits are in some ways low-lying fruit. I think they're not fully taken advantage of by our folks. And
Yep.
I think there's just a lot of opportunity here.
To maybe come some closing points here. So for companies watching this, if you are under 31 million, so you're all probably familiar with OBBB.
Yeah.
Uh, if you are under 31 million, you can actually go back and amend back to 22, okay?
Okay. Wow.
And claim credits on those years if you hadn't done it. If you are over 31 million, you've likely claimed already, but if you've gone through and amortized, you could then take the difference between the unamortized expenses and apply it as a deduction year by year. The thing that I want to leave you with is there is a statute that will run when OBB turns 1 year old, where you will not be able to go back any longer to amend, and you will have to capitalize and amortize in those years. So just a really interesting piece. So the clock is ticking. I would love to show you exactly how we're different. I would love to, have the opportunity to speak with some of your business owners, or if you're listening to this, I'd love the opportunity to speak with you, demo the software for you, really show you how we're different, and see if we could save you some dollars and time. I think that's going to be the rope to tug on.
Save some dollars, save some time,
Increase compliance.
make them increase productivity and make them more competitive. And that's what we're here for.
Yep.
Michael, thank you very much. Appreciate the presentation, and we will be talking to you soon.
Really, really appreciate it, Harold. Thank you for the opportunity, and look forward to partnering with you for another 10, and
That'd be
potentially
great.
another 100. So,
Yeah, we're 115. Let's go for that.
all right.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Harold.
Thank you for watching Inside Exchange, Topics for Manufacturers. We hope you found today's episode valuable. To learn more about the Council of Industry and explore additional resources, visit us at councilofindustry.org.